Mr. President, before I begin, I want to mention the very welcome news that the first phase of the historic Israel-Gaza peace plan brokered by President Trump and his administration, working with allies and partners in the region, has been agreed to. This will finally mean the release of all remaining hostages, living and dead, who have been held by Hamas since its October 7, 2023 attack. It is vital that Israel, and especially Hamas, implement the terms of this agreement as quickly as possible so that this can truly mark the beginning of an end to the bloodshed. I hope a lasting peace for this most war-torn of regions. In addition to both sides adhering to all agreed-upon terms, true peace will also require that there is never again a threat to Israel emanating from Gaza. This means that Hamas must disarm and relinquish any role in governance of the Gaza Strip. And I know the President and Secretary Rubio continue to work relentlessly to pursue peace and to make this a reality. Mr. President, I am grateful for this news, and my prayers today are for the successful release of all hostages, the success of this agreement, and the protection of all innocents in harm's way. Mr. President, we are now 9 days into the Democrats' government shutdown. 9 days in which Democrats have had multiple opportunities to support a clean, nonpartisan CR sitting right here at the Senate desk to reopen the government. Something that's been passed by our colleagues in the House of Representatives that has achieved 55 senators, Senate majority. Out of 100 senators, 55 senators support this 24-page resolution sitting at the desk, which could open up the government today, because as soon as the Senate passes it, the President will sign it into law. And Mr. President, this is the same nonpartisan measure that, as I said, passed the House 3 weeks ago. No partisan riders, no gimmicks, no partisan policies, Republican policies, anything like that. A simple resolution, 24 pages long, to open up our government and make sure that the federal employees and the American people who depend upon them get paid. Mr. President, the President's ready to sign it. All it takes is a handful of Democrats. There are 3 Democrats who have already supported this clean continuing resolution. Just a handful more, and we can end this shutdown in a matter of hours. 55 senators, a Senate majority, a majority of the 100 United States senators, majority in the House of Representatives. The President of the United States is prepared to sign it. That's how straightforward this proposition is. And we've already seen, Mr. President, plenty of negative impacts from the Democrat shutdown. But a whole new wave of pain begins tomorrow if Democrats don't act. Because if we fail to fund the government by the end of the day today, American service members will begin going without their paychecks starting tomorrow. That's right, Mr. President. If Democrats can't bring themselves to reopen the government by the end of the day, our troops, the people who protect and defend this country, will start missing their paychecks. To say that that's unacceptable is an understatement. Many of our service members are serving in harm's way at this very moment. All of them stand ready to rush into danger at a moment's notice to protect the rest of us. They and their families make numerous sacrifices to serve our country. The very idea, Mr. President, that they won't get a paycheck because Democrats can't bring themselves to accept a clean, nonpartisan CR is beyond the pale. Mr. President, if the government remains shut down after today, instead of getting our troops paid, they're going to have to continue stretching what money they have saved. And unfortunately, Mr. President, sometimes that's not very much. As one advocate for military families put it, and I quote, "This isn't just a financial hardship. It's destabilizing for households and military readiness alike." Military readiness. Many families have already begun to visit food banks near bases. And it's even harder on families with a loved one who's deployed. Amy Palmer, who runs an organization that helps military families in Colorado, said families of the deployed, and I quote, are having to navigate this alone. They're used to getting the paycheck and paying bills on behalf of their entire family. And with that service member deployed and not really having that support system from them, it is really hard, end quote. Well, Mr. President, it's not just our troops who are going to be missing a paycheck. Civilian workers will also be missing part of their pay starting this Friday, including law enforcement officers like the members of our very own Capitol Police. Food banks and other nonprofits around the country are bracing for increased demand from federal employees, especially here in the National Capital Region. I remember when a Democrat leader was a passionate opponent of government shutdowns because of their impact on federal workers. I'm pretty sure that was just about 6 months ago. Other Democrats used to be concerned about the impact on federal workers as well. A few years ago, our Democrat colleague from New Jersey, himself a former career federal worker, had this to say, and I quote, I worked through multiple shutdowns, including, having to work and show up every day without getting paid. I mean, it's just so scary to think of the fact that this is going to hurt people, end quote. Yet Democrats aren't showing the slightest interest in reopening the government to ensure our troops and federal employees get paid. Mr. President, later today, we're going to have another vote on the clean continuing resolution to open up the government. As I said, we are a handful of Democrats away from passing this continuing resolution and reopening the government. A handful of votes away from paying our troops. And we're going to see if that matters to Democrats. We'll see if Democrats choose to pay America's troops or if they once again bow to the demands of their far-left base, which is telling them to hold out, or to their strategists who tell them that they're, quote, winning the shutdown. Well, based on the reporting this morning, Democrats couldn't care less whether military families miss a paycheck tomorrow. In an interview posted this morning, the Democrat leader said, every day gets better for us. Every day gets better for us. Mr. President, this isn't a political game. Democrats might feel that way, but I don't know of anybody else that does. Mr. President, the longer this goes on, the more the American people realize the Democrats own this shutdown. A Morning Consult poll finds that, and I quote, voters increasingly blame Democrats for the government shutdown, end quote. In the latest Harvard-Harris poll, 65% of voters think Democrats should reopen the government instead of holding out for their partisan demands. But Democrats are apparently being told to hold the line by their far-left base, and so this shutdown drags on. Mr. President, we can solve the issue of troop pay and every other problem we're seeing today, by passing this clean, nonpartisan CR and sending it to the President. He's ready to sign it. If Democrats would only agree, we could reopen the government in just a few hours, literally. Pay our troops, pay our federal workers, and stop this madness and this notion that somehow in this political game, the Democrats believe, according to their leader, that every day gets better for us. That, Mr. President, is not the experience of the American people. It's time to end this shutdown, to reopen this government. Let's pass this CR today. Mr. President, I yield the floor.
Mr. President,
I recognize the Democrat leader.
I ask unanimous consent the quorum call be dispensed with.
The senator is recognized.
Mr. President, last night, nearly 2 years to the day of Hamas's vicious attack on October 7th, after nearly 2 long years of devastating war in Gaza, it appears that a ceasefire and hostage agreement has been reached. If this agreement is implemented, then finally, after 2 years of immense suffering, the hostages could soon be free. There could be a ceasefire, and the victims of this painful conflict can start to rebuild their lives. This brings a huge sigh of relief to the hostage families, to all of Israel, and to Palestinians who have suffered for so long in this horrific humanitarian catastrophe. Now we await details and final acceptance and implementation from all parties of the first phase. And we must begin the even harder work of closing negotiations to end the war, to start building the day after in Gaza without Hamas, to surge humanitarian assistance to Palestinians in Gaza, and to build a lasting peace that ensures security and dignity for Israelis and Palestinians alike. This morning, I hope and pray that all of the hostages are released, including the deceased hostages. I will never give up until all the hostages are home, including the remains of my constituents, Omer Nutra and Itai Chen. I've gotten to know their families well over the last 2 years, and I share their desperation to bring them home for proper burial and closure. The work is not over, but any step to end this nightmare is one that should be celebrated and carefully implemented. Now on the shutdown and the Trump administration. The federal government has now been shut down for more than a week, but Donald Trump, Speaker Johnson, and Republicans in Congress are nowhere to be found. Instead of playing with people's lives, Donald Trump and Republican leaders in Congress need to sit down with Democrats and have a serious negotiation to fix health care and reopen the government at once. Workers are starting to miss out on paychecks. Seniors are worried about delays at the Social Security Administration. Small business with government contracts are in the dark. We need to end this shutdown as soon as possible. Every day that Republicans refuse to negotiate to end this shutdown, the worse it gets for Americans, and the clearer it becomes who's fighting for them. Each day, our case to fix health care and end the shutdown gets better and better, stronger and stronger, because families are opening their letters, showing how high their premiums will climb if Republicans get their way. They're seeing why this fight matters. It's about protecting their health care, their bank accounts, their futures. But Republicans are absent. The House is literally on vacation. And Donald Trump, meanwhile, continues to play with people's lives and threaten mass layoffs for federal workers. Yesterday, the Wall Street Journal reported that Republican leaders in Congress have been urging the administration not to follow through with their threats of mass layoffs and no back pay for furloughed federal workers. The Journal wrote, quote, that far-reaching government cuts and firings could backfire with the public, and aides have been, quote, warning that such moves could cause voters to blame Republicans for the shutdown. That's the Wall Street Journal. Well, this is spot on. If Donald Trump thinks that punishing federal workers and treating the American public as pawns is going to help him politically, he's making a terrible mistake. Because the American people are smart. They see what Trump and the Republicans are doing. They know Republicans are the ones in charge. They have the presidency, the House, the Senate, not Democrats. We Democrats want to end this shutdown as quickly as we can. But Donald Trump and Republicans need to negotiate with us in a serious way to fix the health care premiums crisis. We can and should do both. It's not either or, like Republicans think. President Trump, meanwhile, is simply not taking this shutdown seriously because as we speak, the Trump administration continues to negotiate a $20 billion bailout for Argentina to prop up a MAGA ally. Apparently, Donald Trump thinks $20 billion for a MAGA-friendly government in Argentina is fine, but fixing health care premiums here at home is not. Meanwhile, thanks to Trump's bungled trade war with China, American soybean farmers have been shut out of foreign markets and are facing mass bankruptcies. With American farmers cut out, farmers in countries like Argentina are taking advantage, selling record number of soybeans to China. But instead of helping American farms now in the middle of a shutdown, Donald Trump wants to send $20 billion to Argentina to help them compete against American farmers. All while hungry Americans face higher grocery prices and the largest cuts ever to nutrition aid, thanks to Donald Trump and the Republicans' big ugly bill. It's utter lunacy. Whose side is Donald Trump on? And the situation is no better here in Congress. In the middle of a shutdown crisis, Speaker Johnson has shut the lights off to the halls of Congress. We Democrats have made clear that Republicans need to engage with us in serious negotiation to end this destructive shutdown and fix health care premiums as soon as we can. But Speaker Johnson has sent the House on vacation. He has sent members home now for 3 weeks, and it sounds like he'll keep them away for at least another week more. The House of Representatives has not held a vote, a single vote, since September 19th, 20 days ago. In fact, Mr. President, would you care to guess how many days the House has been in town since the end of July? 12 days. That's it. Since the summer, the House of Representatives has held votes for only 12 days. If you're someone who works 2 jobs, or works weekends or overtime to make ends meet, what on earth are you supposed to think, when House Republicans can't even be bothered to show up to reopen the government? House Republicans are not working and getting paid, and they're asking the American people House Republicans are getting paid and not working, and they're asking federal workers to work and not get paid. If your electricity prices are skyrocketing, if your premiums are going up by thousands of dollars, if you're getting charged more for a cup of coffee or your groceries, and you see Republicans on vacation for 3 weeks straight, that's basically a middle finger to hardworking Americans. And let's be clear, the Speaker's dig in at all costs approach is not sitting well with some members of his own party. Yesterday, Marjorie Taylor Greene said the following, quote, "The House has so much work to do. Why aren't we coming back in session? We could be doing appropriations, passing important bills, and more." Representative Massey of Kentucky tweeted something similar. "The government is shut down, but the House refuses to go back in session. Why are we in recess?" said Republican Massey. "Because the day we go back into session, I have 218 votes for the discharge petition to force a vote on releasing the Epstein files." Representative Kevin Kiley of California, Republican, meanwhile posted this: "The Speaker shouldn't even think about canceling session for a 3rd straight week." So the cracks are showing on the Republican side because they know Speaker Johnson's position of not budging on health care fixes is untenable. And in Louisiana, I would have thought that of all people interested in fixing ACA premiums, it would have been a representative from the state of Louisiana. Yesterday, I read a sobering report from the Times-Picayune saying that, quote, "Louisiana stands to lose the most if the ACA premium tax credits expire." According to that report, 85,000 Louisiana residents will lose health insurance. Many will see their premiums skyrocket. The average 60-year-old Louisiana couple making $85,000 a year would see insurance costs rise from $600 a month to $2,000 a month. Hear that, Mr. Speaker? That's your constituents. Good Americans in your own state will suffer the most if the ACA premiums expire. People will go bankrupt. People will get sick. People will die. all because the Speaker chose to keep the House on vacation rather than come to work and negotiate with Democrats to fix this health care crisis and end their Trump shutdown. Shameful. We urge Republicans to back away from their corner and have serious negotiations with the American negotiations that the American people deserve and expect before people get sick and go bankrupt. Now, finally, on a different, more somber but grateful note, last month the Senate lost a beloved member of our family, Kevin McDonald. Kevin served as the scheduler for our former colleague, Senator Patrick Leahy, for over 30 years. And I know Patrick would be the first to admit that he wouldn't have had the great career he did without Kevin by his side. I'm sure there were many days when I called Patrick 10 or 20 times, I still remember his phone number, or asked him to rush to my office in the middle of something else, and made Kevin's life hell trying to keep his schedule. But Kevin, the consummate professional he was, always found a way to make it work. He made the hardest days feel easier. He made the busiest days feel smoother. And everyone who knew him, whether you were a senator, a staffer, a parking attendant, a police officer, everyone just loved to be around him. He was the life of every party. He lit up every room he walked into and had an innate ability to turn friends into family. We'll all miss Kevin. We thank him for his service to the Senate, the state of Vermont, and the country. Our prayers are with his family, his friends, and his loved ones. I yield the floor.
We're now in the 9th day of a government shutdown. The Senate held its 7th round of votes on Democratic and Republican plans to fund the government, which again have failed. CBS News congressional reporter Torian Small has more on this from Capitol Hill.
Facing growing pushback against missed pay for military members, Senate Leader John Thune is considering moving standalone legislation that would deliver emergency pay to troops as the shutdown continues. Democrats are supportive of this idea as they dig in deeper against the GOP-backed clean continuing resolution that would fund the government through mid-November. House Republican leadership, however, aren't open to that idea. After mulling it over earlier in the week, Speaker Mike Johnson on Wednesday said that he would not go ahead with the standalone bill, saying it would deliver a show vote for Democrats. Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffrey says Democrats are also wanting action on expiring tax credits for Obamacare, set to sunset at the end of the year. Back to you.
Torian Small, thank you.